They would do everything in their power to muck you around. When I got into Sarajevo, I mean, I had an image that it was going to be utterly chaotic and lots of people killing one another. That was right, but it was worse. What I couldn't believe was what was happening to the normal people. To me, I was so deeply upset and appalled that any army could shell into a city. Under the Geneva Convention, you cannot turn your guns onto any target where civilians are likely to be in the target area. That is a war crime. I saw the Holiday Inn, for example, that looked like a big rectangular block of Gorgonzola cheese. We had huge holes in it. You could almost see through it in parts. That's where the international press was. Everyone lived in total fear, not just the civilians, but also the military and the United Nations, because shells did not discriminate. They just came crashing in 24 hours a day. And if the inhabitants wanted to get water, they had to go out of their protection, and water was not on tap, there was no electricity, there was no transport, and snipers would shoot at anything.
This is a town going hungry, but if all goes well, in the next 48 hours the first relief convoys are escorted through safely. These people will get the first food supplies in months.
There's no prospect of peace in Sarajevo, nothing to relieve the misery of a city where the population daily endures the horrors of war.
I didn't know how we were going to deal with it, and quite honestly, we didn't have much of a plan either.
They are the first to arrive, 400 men, women and children packed into 5 coaches. They're in the final stages of being ethnically cleansed. Their misfortune was to live in villages which fell to Bosnian Serbs.
I suspect that they're going to take these buses off these poor people and make them walk. That is the last thing that should happen. I'm not sure what we can do about it.
After much debate, the Serbs refused to allow the buses to cross. They were afraid they'd never get them back. Here in the mountains, watching these people being bussed over the front line, the term ethnic cleansing fills you with shame and disgust. These people are being bussed from their homes at gunpoint in fear of their lives. There was no choice if this exodus from the battleground was to be complete before nightfall. Carrying what they'd been allowed to leave with, they struggled and walked almost in silence, away from the homes they'll probably never see again, across no man's land, the fighting suspended for an hour or two. It was difficult for the children, this 2-mile walk. It was probably much worse for the elderly. Keeping them in the car tracks was awkward. The road either side was mined by both sides. Before they'd left, they'd signed away their homes, and now they carried only what mattered most. These were neither rich nor poor people, just victims of war. And they'd left one war behind, now they seemed to be heading into another. There was little camaraderie from Muslim troops. They've seen this all before. Colonel Bob Stewart will be back here again soon. The Serbs have warned him that they're expelling another 1,000 plus Muslims in the next few days. The misery and suffering in Bosnia continues daily unabated, much of it unreported. Capital Sarajevo now permanently under siege. The trees in the city have all but gone, only the stumps remain. Tonight they'll be burning in a little fire somewhere in this war-torn city. Kapitanovic Ibrahim makes a daily 2-mile walk to bring back 3 gallons of water. He's had no electricity for 3.5 months. The stove in the sitting room is a life support machine. The daily ambition is to cook and to keep warm, but the Sarajevo dilemma is what to eat and what to burn. Kapitanovic Ibrahim burns old and broken furniture, old clothes soaked in car engine oil, plastic wrappings and paper found in the street. pot of this thin bean soup will be eaten on alternate days until it's gone. Lunch he has today on his own. His wife is still queuing for bread. Their neighbour is Masic Milojka. She's had this skirt for years. Last year it fitted. Now she has to pin it up, having lost so much weight. Dinner now for her 4 children, the youngest 3, the eldest 14, is 2 sandwiches. Her inability to function as a proper mother is breaking her heart. A block away, there's a feeding station for local children. Their ration cards are checked and marked. In return, they get a sandwich each. There's no milk, no water for tea. 600 children a day fed here. The aid that comes into Bosnia keeps people alive. It doesn't stop them being killed. That would require aid of a completely different kind.
When I first arrived with my unit into central Bosnia, I was at a place called Vitez. I was just getting established and my troops were arriving. I was there on the advance party with about 30 people. We had sentries out on the road, and a place called Yaitsi in eastern Bosnia was being attacked by the Bosnian Serb army. Past my base started streaming huge convoys of people, normal people, mainly Bosnian Muslims and a few Bosnian Croats who had been what they call ethnically cleansed.
Ethnic cleansing in central Bosnia. Croats and Muslims who've lived alongside each other for generations, turning on their neighbours with a savagery that has shocked even hardened British troops. These gruesome scenes were filmed by soldiers from the Cheshire Regiment from the turrets of their armoured vehicles. The Cheshires are based in Vitez, where some of the fiercest fighting has taken place. Theirs has been the grim task of collecting the dead after each night of bloodshed. Often they've discovered evidence of massacres in which whole families have been slaughtered by murder squads. More than 200 people have been killed in the Vitez region, many of them Muslim civilians whose homes were in predominantly Croatian areas.
Their houses burnt and people shot and murdered out of the area around Yaitsi. When it started happening, I said to my sentries, "Gentlemen, just count how many people are on the road going past us." I went out and they counted 10,000. 10,000 people?
Many of the Muslim families made homeless by the fighting in Vitez gathered outside the gates of the British base, looking for protection. They were not allowed in. The Cheshires don't want to appear to be taking sides, but their commander says armoured vehicles will form a wall around the refugees if there's more shooting in the area.
Doctors, lawyers, teachers, farm workers, some of them being pulled in big carts, all of them petrified. This crime had been caused by the Bosnian Serb army under the overall direction of Radovan Karadzic.
Why you are pushing us together like dog and cat in the same box? It's impossible to live together. We have to separate to be good neighbors. That should be understood by the people.